good practice, and that it is important for us to do even if we don't have a religious motive or even if there is no religious teaching with respect to it. But it's still important for us to look at the ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. In what context and in what way did they emphasize this practice, and what was the significance and importance in their view? There's a hadith from our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, in which he says, ثَلَاثٌ أُعْطِيَهُنَّ الْأَنْبِيَاء الْعِطْرُ وَالْأَزْوَاجُ وَالسِّوَاكُ. There are three things that the prophets were given. One is itr, or fragrance, perfume, things that keep a person smelling good. وَالْأَزْوَاجُ, and the prophets, they taught and they practiced marriage. They established families. They did not separate themselves from society. They did not separate themselves from their relatives. And they did not make themselves into monks who did not marry and did not establish families of their own. وَالسِّوَاكُ. And the prophets also, unlike many other people who were known for their spirituality or were regarded as ascetics, pious people, zahids, they used to frequently brush their teeth and they would maintain their hygiene. So this is one of the ahadith that indicates that there was a certain path that the prophets followed. It was a path of dedication and devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but living in this world with the best possible way, in a way that is pleasing to human society and that is of best physical and spiritual health for the individual as well. And it is something which was the wasiyah, or the bequest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conveyed by His angels for the prophets to act in this way. There is a hadith in which our sixth Imam narrates from the noble messenger of Allah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. And there are several wasaya, several bequests. مَا زَالَ جِبْرَائِيلُ يُوصِينِي بِالسِّوَاكِ حَتَّى خَشِيتْ أَنْ أَدْرُدَ أَوْ أُحْفِيَ. That the Prophet said that Jibreel used to command me to brush to such an extent that I began to fear that I would wear out my teeth. He emphasized it that much. And then in the hadith there is also the addition, وَمَا زَالَ يُوصِينِي بِالْجَارِ حَتَّى ظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُ سَيُورِثُهُ. And he emphasized so much on the rights of a neighbor and doing good to one's neighbor that I began to wonder, will he also tell me that the neighbor has a share of your inheritance? When you die, not only do your descendants and your family get a share of your inheritance, but even your neighbor will have a share. وَمَا زَالَ يُوصِينِي بِالْمَرْأَةِ حَتَّى ظَنَنْتُ أَنَّهُ لَا يَنْبَغِي طَلَاقُهَا. And he commanded me to be merciful and kind and to be nice to women, specifically here to one's wife, to such an extent that I began to wonder, is it even permissible to ever divorce a woman? Jibreel said that a person should be forgiving, merciful, compassionate, kind to such an extent that the Prophet said, is there even any justifiable cause for a person to divorce? Now, in all of these cases, these are the priorities that Jibreel is conveying to the Prophet. It is not to say that brushing one's teeth is wajib. It is not to say that the neighbor actually will inherit a person's estate. And it is not to say that it is actually forbidden under all circumstances to divorce somebody. But these are the priorities and the things that the Prophet should focus on and try to make sure that he is careful of. One of them is actually brushing the teeth. And there is an interesting comparison that is made in many ahadith between brushing teeth and between recitation of Quran. Now in some hadith, the expression is given to us that cleanse the path by which the Quran is recited. And it is recommended before reciting Quran to brush one's teeth. So that even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to be offended by a bad smell that may come from us, but if we are reciting the Quran, then we should honor Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we should honor the sanctity of the words that we are reciting by making sure that even our mouth, which is reciting those words, that it has a good fragrance. But there are also other ahadith that indicate and that emphasize that importance of brushing and the association with recitation of Quran. One is that they both convey the same benefit to a person in terms of a person's memory. One of the teachings of Islam is that recitation of Quran improves a person's memory. It can help a person overcome forgetfulness. And in addition to that, in one hadith in which the Holy Prophet of Islam has given certain instructions to Amir al-Mu'mineen. It's a very well-known hadith, the wasaya of the Prophet, the instructions of the Prophet for Amir al-Mu'mineen. In this hadith, the Prophet is reported to have said that, Ya Ali, thalathatun yazidna fil hifth. There are three things that are good for your memory. وَيُذْهِبْنَ الْبَلْغَ, and they also decrease that bile that can be harmful to a person. Al-Luban was-siwak wa qira'atul Quran. Luban is a herbal extract. I believe it's frankincense or kundur. So it's an herbal extract that was used quite frequently in the ancient world. It's known in Arabic as al-Luban. Second is as-siwak, brushing one's teeth. And the third is qira'atul Quran. So these three things, they have a health benefit in maintaining a person's health, and they also have the benefit of increasing a person's memory. So they have a physical benefit. And then beyond that, it is recommended in a hadith to brush before doing wudu, anytime a person does wudu, to brush before praying, anytime a person wants to say salat, then they should brush. And before recitation of Quran, anytime a person wants to recite Quran, it is also recommended to brush. So these are three of the times when it is recommended. To the extent that the Imams have even said that if a person is not able to brush or if they don't have a brush handy, then even if they are just to rub their fingers on their teeth once, back and forth, and then rinse their mouths, that also counts as brushing, and it gives a person the thawab and the reward and the barakah that brushing is to give. So these are some of the things which we have in a hadith. There is an association between our worship and the words that come out of our mouth and even the physical state of our mouth and our bodies as to how much benefit we get and how much blessing there is in what we are reciting. Please recite salawat. Now, of course, another series of ahadith that we have, and this is something which is emphasized in different places in our Islamic teachings, is the importance of keeping our physical body pure. One way that people used to do that in the previous era is that they would go to public baths, which were known as hammam. So they would sometimes do ghusl, or they would rinse themselves in their own homes. But then occasionally, sometimes every few days, or perhaps every week, or perhaps less frequently, they would go to a public bath. And public baths, they had a larger space. They had sometimes different pools of water, hot water or lukewarm water, and they had the facility of also putting on various creams and other things that are beneficial to a person's health. So it was frequent, and it was encouraged in Islam for people to do so. But of course, in those public areas, there are people who go with different levels of sophistication and culture, and some people were not careful about making sure that their modesty and their chastity was preserved. And we have many ahadith that emphasize that whenever a person goes into a public place like that, whether it be a public bath, which don't exist anymore, or any place where others may not be careful about their modesty, then it is wajib on a Muslim, and it is important for us to be careful of our own modesty and also to be careful about our sight and our eyes. But many Muslims, they then limited the importance of modesty and of chastity only to that physical aspect. A believer should be careful about their dress, and a believer should be careful about their eyes and what they see and what they don't see. And the Imams at the same time